Hi, this video is for Monday, May 4th. This is the 7th grade science book, the one that looks like this. We're in section 5.2. This is a longer section, so what I'm going to do is on Monday is going to be half of the chapter or the section. Then on Wednesday, it's going to be the other half of the section. So if you're worried this is a lot of reading, I'm going to break it up in half and try to do some explaining. Feel free to pause this video while I'm talking to do your work to support you. Okay, here we go. Last time we talked about evolution and that guy, Charles Darwin, who was a real person. He went on a boat for 5 years to the Galapagos Island, wrote down in a journal all of his findings, did illustrations, and noticed that species and animals on the same island really looked different, and he was trying to figure out why. So this section is called Adaptation and Extinction. Okay, one of the first things we need to know, this is on page 219, is habitat. That's a place where an organism lives. Now, humans are alive, we're organisms, plants are alive, animals, mammals, sorry about that, and species are alive. So humans have a habitat just like animals. One of the questions in your textbook is going to ask you or in your Google Doc is, what is your habitat? You would put the place where you live. So you don't need to put your address, but you could say Lakewood, California, Long Beach, California, Bellflower, California. If you want to be more specific, you could say Bellflower, California on the street, and then you put your street. And then you could even put the color of your house, the size of your house, the size of your room, the bedroom. You could be as specific as you want to be. Now on this page, also there's going to be a question on this one. One of the questions in your Google Doc is asking about, let me read it to you. An adaptation of some nocturnal animals is larger eyes. This improves their ability to see at night. One of the questions is going to ask you, what's one adaptation that nocturnal animals have that normal animals do not? Now, a nocturnal animal is an animal that's awake at the nighttime. So this animal, this species here, can see better at night. Now, think about it for you. Now, when I first go outside to take out the trash at night, I can see, but it's pretty dark. But if you stay out in the dark for a minute or two, your sight becomes better over time. These animals, if their sight is not good, they could die because other species could eat them. It's important that these species adapt so that they don't become extinct. Let's go to the next page. There's a copy of this in your Google Classroom as well. Now, how do these animals adapt, and what are the types of adaptations? They gave a picture here of this jackrabbit, just like Stevens. All right. And this simple adaptation here is called, structural adaptation is called camouflage, which is found on this page right here. Now, our Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, and any military, or if you've played Call of Duty or any video games, camouflage allows you, for your enemy, they can't see you that well. You blend into the background. Think of it that for the species as well. They have enemies in the wild. There are species that are bigger than them that are trying to eat them. And so what they do is they use camouflage so they don't die. Here's another example of that with these lizards. I mean, they look like rocks, but they're lizards. They blend in the color so that it's harder for birds or other species to see them so that they won't die. This is also something that Darwin noticed. There's also a question in your Google Doc about the Sally Lightfoot crab. Here, I'll zoom it in. You can pause it right here and read about it. And I also gave you a clue and a copy of this in your Google Classroom as well. Let's go to the last 2 pages for today's lesson. Another way that species adapt is through what's called mimicry. Mimicking, that M word that's in yellow. Now, this is really cool. Snakes do this really well. You see those snakes? Pretty cool. And frogfish. Okay, there's a snake that's called a rattlesnake. I'm sure you've heard of it. It makes a sound to warn you that If you come any closer, it's going to bite you or it's trying to threaten you. Well, there's snakes that don't have that rattle. And what they do is when something is coming that's trying to eat them, they make a rattling noise with their mouth that mimics, that copies the sound of a rattlesnake. So that predator thinks, oh no, this is a rattlesnake, I better leave it alone. That's mimicry. Humans, we do this too. If you've ever been to Big Bear, the forest, or to a summer camp where you have to spend the night, the forest rangers will tell you if you see a bear, you're supposed to put your hands up really high and pretend that you're really big. You're mimicking, copying, and pretending to be a bigger animal so the bear leaves you alone. Animals in the wild do this. Why? So they don't die and become extinct. Last page here. There's other types of behavioral adaptations, and you can pause this because it's going to be one of your questions. There's a thing about herding instinct. This section here on page 223. Feel free to pause this so you can read it better. There's some animals, especially that are like wild. Now, I'm not talking about pets, especially cows is the example they give. They always like just sort of hang out together, like buffalo, elk, like deer looking animals. Why is that? Well, they have this thing called a herding instinct. Herding means to bundle together, a herd. And what they do is, that's a way so they could stay alive. Think of it this way. If you were going to attack one cow, you would just get a couple of your buddies and you would take the cow down. But if the cow is in a herd of cows, a group of cows, it would be way harder to take down 50 cows. It would take too much energy, too much time. I mean, you could end up dying because the cows could kick you. It's just too much. So one question in your Google Doc would be about herding instinct. This is half of this section this is our Monday lesson. It's about adaptation, camouflage, mimicry, and other things. Hope this helped. See you next time.